What up, internet? So I have been playing a little bit of New World, and I spent some time leveling up all of the weapons quickly to level 4 so that I could have 3 points to spend in every tree, allowing me to take the ability to go through and view all of the different weapon attacks and animations. For a lot of people, this will help decide kind of what class they want to play, because New World doesn't have classes. They have different weapons, and you can choose to have 2 different weapon types equipped at a time, allowing you to somewhat mix match a hybrid of 2 different classes and play kind of what you want. Each of the different weapon types has 2 different trees, and they each have 3 different abilities, as well as additional abilities that modify those attacks or passive abilities that will give you additional bonuses. So without going too much into it, I will show you kind of what's going on there. I'm just going to quickly show each of the weapon animations. I'm going to have to respec in between different trees so that I can get all 6 going, but we'll just try and get this going and show you all the animations as quick as possible. So starting off here, we will start with the sword and shield, and being an action type game, they have different kinds of attacks. You'll have standard light attacks, light chain attacks where you might have 2 in your chain or 3 attacks in a chain, and these do different amounts of damage, as well as heavy attacks. And some abilities, you'll have a heavy attack where you hold down the mouse button or your attack button, whatever you choose, for an extended period of time, and it will attack. Or you can charge and hold it down until the attack's animation is fully complete, and it'll do a charged heavy attack. Not all weapons have all 4 of these different types. The sword and shield happens to have that, but we will go ahead and show you each of those different weapon attacks. Now, these are the 2 different trees. As I was mentioning before, you've got Swordmaster and Defender. Each has a different active ability shown with square, and their abilities below them modifying. For example, Leaping Strike, you leap 6 meters and you deal 135 weapon damage. Now, you can add an additional modifier that if you hit a foe below 30% health, you deal 50% more damage. As you can see, these modify the ability that you choose to use, and you've got other solo ones that don't have arrows that just give you passive abilities for the tree. Now, moving on, we've got Whirling Blade, Reverse Stab, and Leaping Strike for the Swordmaster tree within Sword and Shield, showing you how those work and the basic attacks. You've got your light attack. You've got a light attack chain, which comprises of 3 abilities. And you've got your charged, or your heavy attack. And then you've got a charged heavy attack. Now, those 2 are a little bit hard to see, but usually the charged heavy attack has just a little bit longer animation build-up time and a little bit longer end time. And then continuing into the abilities for the sword side, you've got your Whirling Blade, you've got Reverse Stab, and Leaping Strike. And that kind of does it for the Swordmaster side. There is definitely a lot of things that you can go through and fine-tune, pick out what you want. The way that the abilities work for this game is you can get each weapon up to level 20. Each weapon starts at a skill level of level 1. Granting you 1 ability point per level, allowing you to get up to 19 ability points. Well, there's 19 ability points that you can spend in each side of the tree, or you can mix and match across multiple trees, however you would like to do. Now we'll go over into Defender, and we'll get Shield Rush, Shield Bash, and Defiant Strike. So, showing those animations, we've got Shield Rush, you rush forward, Shield Bash, and Defiant Strike. Now, I know that these are all quick, and I'm kind of going through them pretty quickly, but being a video, you'll be able to go back and replay all of these to your heart's content. All right, moving on, we have the Rapier. My camera's not covering it up. We're good. So this one does not have a charged heavy attack. It's just a standard heavy attack. So you've got your light attack, light middle swipes, and your heavy attack. swap weapons because, as I was mentioning before, you can have 2 weapons at a time. It kind of shows you the cooldown on abilities as you swap back and forth over in the right-hand corner. All right, so light attack, and then we'll do some chain attacks, middle swipes. There you go. And then your charged attack, or heavy attack as it's referenced multiple times in most of the abilities. All right, and the abilities for the blood tree and the grace tree. So for blood, we've got Tondo, Flourish and Finish, and Flurry. Now, these ones are a little bit more deep and they have a lot more going on with them than the Sword and Shield, which are a little bit more active abilities that you can kind of just, it's a little less to understand there. In this, you can build up some blood and then some blood debuffs, and then use Flourish and Finish to consume all of the debuffs on your opponent and do extra damage all at one time. So Tondo will do a ranged attack. You've got some quick strikes, and then Flourish and Finish. And if you press ability, your basic attack in the middle of that, it will end and do an additional strike. That's the one that I was mentioning. That'll consume all debuffs, blood debuff on your opponent, and cause extra damage at that point in time. Moving on to the next side of the tree, respecking, we've got Evade, Riposte, and Flesh. Yes, I know, I'm saying that's funny. All right, and so your Evade, it's a quick little movement. There's your Flesh and your Riposte. Now, these ones are pretty interesting. I think that the Rapier has some of the most interesting abilities out there in terms of enhancing the actual combat between you and an enemy, where you can evade and move around. It's a pretty short cooldown, and you can attack while doing so. This one's more of a basic ability where it's just kind of like a rush attack. But then this last ability is a counter. So if your enemy's about to attack you, you put that up, it lasts 1 second. If they hit you within that time, you do a counter attack and stagger them. So pretty cool stuff with the Rapier. If that is a type of ability or type of weapon you are into, then I think that they did it some good justice in this game. Moving on to the Hatchet, we'll equip the Hatchet here. Don't necessarily need the shield anymore. And then the next weapon is going to be the Lance. And I don't have one on me, so I'll have to go grab one. No! All right, anyways. So we've got the Hatchet, and then we'll move on to the Warhammer, I guess. Anyways. Nope, swapping weapons. Okay. So the Hatchet has the 2 different trees of Berserker and Throwing. The Berserker tree, you have Berserk giving you a passive, it's not necessarily passive, it's an active buff, dealing more damage. You've got Feral Rush and Raging Torrent. So that's the first side of the tree. We'll go back over, show you the Hatchet abilities. So they've got a light attack chain, but the ender happens to do more damage from the chain. You've got a heavy attack and then a charged heavy attack as well. All right, our basic attack, our attack chain. You've got that ender, which is a spinning attack. And then you've got a charged attack. And then you've got, or that's your heavy attack, and this is your charged heavy attack. So, heavy attack, charged heavy attack. And here is the Berserk animation. Get some nice, cool, glowing blue effect. We've got some other people fighting around over here. There's your second ability. You kind of jump forward and do 2 slashes. And then Raging Torrent, where you do 4 flurry-like strikes. Pretty cool abilities. The Hatchet is got to be some people's favorites. Oh, and you have to wait for the respec for all of your cooldowns to come off, all your abilities come off cooldown before you can respec. You've got the throwing side of the tree, giving you rending throw, applying rend. Social distancing, you throw an axe forward and move back. And infected throw, causing a disease debuff on your opponent. Now, the throwing tree also, one pretty notable ability is aimed throw, which I will commit a point to here in a minute after I show you all of the abilities. But what it does is, instead of allowing you to block when you hold down your right mouse button, you can instead aim, allowing you to throw your hatchet as a ranged weapon at that point instead of a melee weapon. You can still do the melee abilities, you can just no longer block with a hatchet. So here is your rending throw, social distancing, and infected toss. Got a little kind of nice, I don't know, pestilence and disease type look to that last throw. All right, and now they're all off cooldown, maybe close. There we go. And I'll just put one into aimed throw really quick, show you guys what that looks like. There you go. You kind of do a nice little toss, and your field of view zooms in so that you can have some better accuracy, I guess. And then you give it a nice little toss. Use some of your stamina from your stamina bar there. You can actually go ahead and rapid fire those. Looks pretty cool. Just put some points into there just to get that alert out of the way. All right, and then Warhammer. Warhammer is another one of those that has a heavy attack and a charged heavy attack, but this does not have a chain of light attacks. It just has 2 attacks that just swing back and forth. The Warhammer has the Juggernaut and the Crowd Crusher trees. In the Juggernaut tree, we have Armor Breaker, Mighty Gavel, and Wrecking Ball. All pretty fun and flavorful abilities for the Warhammer there. Swap weapons over to the Warhammer. As you can see, it is quite large. So here's your Armor Breaker, Gavel, and Wrecking Ball. Pretty cool abilities there. And if we respec here in a second, on the other side, we've got Clear Out, a swinging knockback, Shockwave, AoE Stun, and Path of Destiny, a forward sweeping earthquake-like ability. Okay, so here we go. Clear Out, Shockwave, and we're going to back up for Path of Destiny because it's got a little bit of a forward shockwave type ability. There you go. 3 little explosions out in front of you. And then here is the light attack chain. It's just 2, just to swing forward and back. Then here is the heavy attack and the charged heavy attack. So one more time with those 2 because I know they can be hard to see. So heavy attack, charged heavy attack. So little bit of a difference there. I'm holding down the mouse button for the entirety of the charged heavy attack, this one, whereas the other one I'm pressing it just long enough that I know that it's not going to be a light attack like that. And that is everything about the Warhammer, really. There is kind of this ultimate ability at the bottom of every tree. You have to spend at least 10 points above to get to that ability. And so therefore, since you only have 19 points, there's no way that you could get both ultimate abilities from each tree. And then we'll move on to different weapons. We'll pull out the Great Axe and let's see, maybe the bow. All right. So with the Great Axe, I just realized I don't know if I have a little bit of ammunition. All right. It's kind of a spur of the moment video here. All right, so for the Great Axe, we've got light attack, heavy attack, and charged heavy attack, just like the Warhammer. And the abilities that we have are the two different trees we have are the Reaper and the Mauler trees. The Reaper will extend out and pull an enemy to you. Charge, you'll move forward and do an attack at a fast pace. And Execute, powerful overhead attack trying to execute your foe. All right, so our basic attacks, we've got the light attack where you just swing back and forth. We've got a heavy attack and a charged heavy attack. Sometimes the difference between an easy way to tell the difference between the heavy attack and the charged heavy attack is kind of the sound that it makes. A lot of times the charged heavy attack will have a larger impact sound when it makes contact with the ground. So that's heavy, that's charged heavy. Something I like is that sometimes when you get the animation just right, you can swing heavy attacks back and forth. So it's not just the same animation over and over, and it feels pretty fluid. It's pretty nice. All right, so here's the Reaper ability, pulling an enemy closer to you. Charge, get this cool little glowing animation with your axe, and Execute. Pretty cool abilities. For how much damage Execute does, it does have quite the wind up. So in PvP, I'm just going to say good luck getting that ability off on someone. We'll be able to respec here shortly, probably. You can do it. Wow. Which one? I think it's Execute has a long cooldown. All right. So in the Mauler tree, we've got Maelstrom, Whirlwind, and Gravity Well. Maelstrom brings targets closer to you with a spinning attack. Whirlwind will do a spinning attack and do more spins for the number of enemies you hit. And Gravity Well, probably one of my favorite animations, throws out an axe and pulls enemies into it, just like you would imagine the naming might suggest. So here's Maelstrom. Pretty cool looking ability, pulls enemies to you. Whirlwind, which you'll spin extra times for the number of enemies that you hit. And Gravity Well. Throw out like a spectral looking axe and you got a little rip in space-time, if you will. And gravity changes for 3 seconds and pulls enemies closer. All right, switching over to our bow. We've got just short draws and long draws for the bow here. And we've got the Skirmisher and the Hunter trees. The Skirmisher tree has the evade shot, leap back 5 meters and shoot an arrow dealing 125% weapon damage. Rain of arrows. And poison shot, dealing some poison damage over time. And then I only have 5 arrows. I was not thinking apparently when I came out here to this rock. It's okay, the city's just right there, so if I run out of arrows, we'll have to go back and get some more. But here's your quick shot. You just kind of pull it back and loose one out. You've got your right mouse button to aim down sight, and you can just do a quick pull back and release an arrow, or switching weapons so that I don't use the arrow. And then you can hold it down for your power attack that you'll release. And then we've got the leaping shot, which still uses an arrow. Rain of arrows, you pick an area, and as you might think, you drop down a rain of arrows. And then lastly, your poison cloud, which will essentially buff your next arrow shot and make it deal an area of effect damage of poison. Now I only have 1 arrow left, but so we will probably have to go get some arrows real quick to do the hunter, and I'll grab a lance real quick. I apologize, guys. Tried to make this so it'd be a quick just showing of all of the animations. It's an interesting take on the dodge capabilities in this game. If you were wearing what would be considered a light armor amount of armor, then you can roll when you dodge. But if you're wearing heavier, you're going to do a short hop. And if you're wearing, that's medium. If you're wearing super heavy, you are not going to do much of a hop at all. It's just going to be like a sidestep. Alright, so here's a lance. And we don't have any arrows on us. 49 shots for the musket should be enough, but let's just go over to the trade house real quick and purchase a couple arrows. Alright, ammunition. Doesn't matter. Alright. Yeah, sure. Give me 6 at that price. Makes me laugh when people sell things in like quantities of 1. It's like, no. Just put like 300 up and just allow someone to buy like 60 at a time. Alright, so we've got some good arrow quantity now. I totally passed by a storage shed, aka the bank, closer to the one that I went to. Falling tree, watch out for those. Alright, we'll do a quick demonstration again of the arrow shots, since we've got more arrows now. Alright. So, the bow, respec. In the hunter tree, we've got penetrating shot, which will go through a lot of enemies and deal damage to all of them. We've got splinter shot, that'll go out 10 meters and then split into 3 or 5. And rapid shot, shooting 3 arrows, dealing knockback and more damage with the last arrow. Alright, so here's your basic shot. Here's a charged shot. And then you've got the piercing shot, the splitting shot, there you go, and rapid fire. Pretty cool abilities. Alright, and let's just quickly put a point over here somewhere. Nope, can't do that because of cooldowns. Alright, we'll swap up weapons real quick. Alright, so we've got the lance and the musket, because I forgot to do the spear. I said lance, I apologize. Alright, looking at the trees real quick. Just dropping that point wherever. Okay, for the spear, you've got a light attack, heavy attack, and a charged heavy attack. You have the zoner tree and the impaler tree. The zoner tree, you have Javelin, allowing you to throw your spear. Sweep, which will knock down enemies. And Cyclone, doing quite a few attacks pretty quickly, but slow. Alright. And so we've got our basic attack. Can just go ahead and get 2 back and forth there. It's not necessarily a chain, but it does have a different animation. And then we've got a heavy attack and a charged heavy attack. So again, not that much difference between the two. Again, heavy and then charged heavy. Alright, and then Javelin, allowing you to throw your weapon. Like the animation when you pull it back before you throw it. You got Sweep and Cyclone. Pretty cool. And in the other side of the tree, we've got the Impaler side. Skewer, rush forward and stab, causing a bleed. Perforate, 3 quick strikes. And what I suspect will probably be a lot of people's favorite, the vault kick. Just because it looks pretty sweet in my opinion. Don't know how much I'll be using the spear, but I am a fan of that ability. Alright, so you got Skewer. Your quick 3 strike. And boom. It's a pretty cool ability. Yep, the vault kick. Forgot the name of it for a second. Alright, and then we've got the musket. Same with the bow that you can aim down sight with it. Don't know why it's glowing there. looks to be some sort of bug. Maybe it thought I still had a buff on it. Anyways, the musket, you've just got a standard shot. There's no strong, heavy shot like there was with the bow. No long draw. It's just a standard shot. And in the musket skill trees, we have Sharpshooter and Trapper. As you can imagine, Sharpshooter's mostly about headshots and being kind of a sniper, whereas Trapper is a little more survivalist, set down traps, use sticky bombs, and other sorts of abilities like that. So Sharpshooter, we've got Powershot. You overload and deal extra damage. Powder Burn, you overload. It's a key term here they use. You overload the powder, but this time you cause burning damage over time. And then Shooter's Stance, one of my favorites. You will go down onto one knee and will allow you to fire 3 times, 5 times if you upgrade it, with a shorter reload time. So that's pretty helpful there. So here is the animation for the Powershot. Pretty cool. Makes it so it glows, so you know that something's going to happen special on that next shot. All right, then we've got Powder Burn. And lastly, we've got that Shooter Stance where you go down to one knee and get the faster reload time versus compared to if you were just regularly firing. That's the speed at which you fire. Quite a bit slower. All right, and then for the other tree, how long is the cooldown on that one? 20 seconds. That might be a second until we can get to it. There we go. All right, so we've got traps, stopping power, and sticky bombs. So traps, you throw down a trap that lasts for 20 seconds that will root an enemy and keep them in place. Stopping power, making your next shot do 120 damage, 20% damage, and knock them back. And sticky bomb, as you can imagine, is a bomb that is sticky. So here's us throwing out the trap. Fantastic. Stopping power. So similar effect to those previous ones. This one has a slightly different glowing animation. This guy's trying to trigger our trap for us. Thank you, sir. And sticky bomb. Just gonna pull it out and then give you kind of like a little bit of a guide to where you're going to throw. And I'll tell you what, hitting something with that sticky bomb is quite satisfying. All right, and moving on to our next weapons, we have the Fire Staff. This has a light and heavy attack, same with the other 3 in the magic category. We've got the Fire Mage and Pyromancer underneath the Fire Staff trees, or as the Fire Staff trees. We've got Pillar of Fire, Meteor Shower, and Fireball underneath Fire Mage. All area of effect abilities. This one is a one-time quick attack. Meteor Shower is a castable that you have to channel. And Fireball is area of effect damage that sits there and does damage over time. So we'll swap over to those real quick. So we'll do these 2 first, and then we'll end with the Life Staff. So the Fire Staff, we've got the Pillar of Fire. You pick an area. Pretty cool. Meteor Shower, a larger area, and it's channeled for 6 seconds. Pretty cool. And then Fireball, which any person who is interested in playing some sort of fire magic character loves a good fireball. All right, respec. And then in the Pyromancer tree, we've got some more interesting abilities, less traditional wizard mage type abilities. We've got the Flamethrower, which turns your staff into a flamethrower. Incinerate, which will cause an explosion around you, kicking everyone back. And Burnout, you dash forward with some flame and deal some damage to people. So Flamethrower is an ability that you can toggle on and off and will slowly drain your mana over time. Once you click it off, then the cooldown for it starts. Then you've got Incinerate, explosion around you. And lastly, Burnout. Kind of dash forward with a bunch of fire around you. I gotta do Flamethrower again just because it's pretty cool. Alright. And if we swap over, next we'll do the Ice Gauntlet. Again, light and a heavy attack. Underneath this, oh, I apologize. We'll do the light and heavy attack for the Fire Staff real quick. So this is the light attack. And here is the heavy. As you can see, each shot uses a little bit of your mana. Alright. And then with the Ice Gauntlet, we've got the Ice Tempest and the Builder Trees. Ice Tempest has ice spikes. Sends out kind of like a little surge in ice in front of you and ends with a big spike. Ice Storm, causing a little centralized cyclone of blizzard. And Wind Chill, kind of like a cone of cold effect. Sort of similar to the Flamethrower, but with ice, and it's not it's just kind of similar. Alright, so if we swap over, as you can see, it's more of a gauntlet that just kind of gives you an icy hand instead of a staff. You've got your light attack, it's kind of like a little ball. Then you've got the heavy, which seems to shoot like two little ice balls that kind of like rotate around each other. Alright, and then for the active abilities, with the ending with the major spike, that one you can press the mouse button in the middle of its trail and end the spike early, because the spike does extra damage and stun. So I could end it early. I tried, but I pressed it too early. I tried to end it instantly, so I'll show you that again. Alright, we'll try that again. So I'll end it a little bit early there. Alright, and then we've got Ice Storm. A little flurry blizzard going on that deals damage. And there is the Ice Blast. Can't remember the name of it, but kind of like Cone of Cold. Let's double check. Wind Chill. That one will deal damage. It'll do more damage at the end of its range. And we'll be able to respec here shortly. Over to the Builder Tree. We've got Ice Pylon. Sets down a little sentry turret that shoots. Ice Shower. Well, this also creates a frosted area near you, which there's other buffs in this tree that give that. Ice Shower creates a little area that's hard for enemies to pass through. And Entome, kind of like Ice Block, if you're familiar with that from Warcraft, puts you into status of covered in ice, and you are protected. You can break out early and do damage around you as the shards fly out and hit people. So here's the Ice Pylon. Kind of cool. Sits there. Does a little bit of ice shooting damage to enemies nearby. You gotta be careful with that one. It has targeted enemies I was not suspecting, and I was attacking 3 enemies at once. Here is the next ability. Creates a little wall in front of you that's hard for enemies to pass through. And Entome puts you in some ice, and you can end it early and break out and deal damage around you. Pretty cool abilities. And lastly, we have the Life Staff. Has 2 different trees, Healing and Protector. The Healing tree has Divine Embrace, a single target heal that's casted. Sacred Ground, an AoE heal. And Splash of Light, another AoE heal, but this one's an instant instead of heal over time bubble. So we'll go ahead and swap over to a Life Staff real quick. Show you guys how that looks. Alright, so here's the light attack. A little green orb. And a heavy attack. Got a little spiral with it. Pretty cool animation. And then here is a heal. As you can see, you can target someone, or you can press a different button to target yourself with the ability. So I targeted myself. Sacred Ground. Gives you this cool little animation. With that one, you can also hold control and it will do it centralized on you. And then the last one hits everyone within 100 meters, which is quite the range, but it is a little bit less powerful of ability. Be able to respec here shortly. There we go. And then in the Protector tree, we've got Orb of Protection. It will deal damage to an enemy, but if it passes through allies, or if you hit an ally, it will give them some buffs, and in turn may give you buffs as well. We've got Beacon, which you hit an enemy target, and it heals all allies around that target. And then Light's Embrace. It's a single target heal that does more healing for every buff that your target has. So, Orb of Protection, pretty cool. Beacon, so as you can see, there's the area of effect that will heal once you hit an enemy with it. And Light's Embrace. We'll wait for that to end real quick. Light's Embrace. I guess this one a little bit harder because that one's a targetable. So we'll do it again, but we'll hold left control so I target myself, so you can see the animation. So that's pretty cool. Life Staff's pretty cool. Life Staff is the only magic weapon we have currently that has an ability that will make it so that your regular attacks no longer take mana to do. Pretty cool ability there. And that's it. That's all of the weapons that are currently in New World that will be out at launch here in 2 weeks' time, a little bit more than 2 weeks. There has been screenshots in that of closed beta gameplay where there were additional weapons. Those weapons will show you real quick. There was daggers in this one-handed weapons tree. It was 2 one-handed daggers. There was also a blunderbuss, kind of like a shotgun, and there was a void gauntlet, so void type spells, similar to the Ice Gauntlet in that you're not carrying around spear. It's more kind of just like cool purpley energy around your hand. But other than that, yeah, I just wanted to take a quick look at all of the weapon animations, kind of give everyone kind of a little bit of a sneak peek into what each of them do. All of the trees themselves have a lot more fun passive abilities and additions to each individual ability. The open beta ends today, so unfortunately, if you don't have it downloaded, you won't be able to jump in and look at all of these abilities anytime you like. But website that I have found, New World Calculator here, so nwcalc.org. This appears to have all of the correct information. Some of the tooltips looks like someone got a little hasty when they were typing them out, so some of the words are kind of blurred together and stuff like that. But for the most part, this does a pretty good job at showing you all the different weapon options. So let's, for example, pick sword. So it will show us the 2 different sword trees that we saw before and tell you all the different information for these abilities. So if you want to go in and kind of tinker around and figure out what a cool combo could be, there is that option for you. I personally have... The cool thing is you can build, and then there's this link that you can copy down here at the bottom. And so what I've done is I have gone through, theory crafted this build here that involves the Great Axe and the Ice Gauntlet. The idea being that the Great Axe has a couple different abilities that can pull enemies in. So for example, the Maelstrom pulls enemies in, and Gravity Well pulls enemies in. So I would theoretically charge into a group of enemies, use Maelstrom to pull them in or Gravity Well to pull them in, and then maybe swap over to my second weapon, my Ice Gauntlet, and do an Ice Storm. and do a bunch of ice damage around to all of the enemies around me, as well as Ice Shower, which will stun enemies and keep them in place, making them take more damage in this Ice Storm and Gravity Well or Maelstrom, whatever abilities it is I choose to use. Just try to get people all bunched in and just do a bunch of damage to them. Something that I'm really interested in, the bottom of the Ice Tempest tree here has something called Ultimate Chill. Ice abilities chill targets, increasing ice damage by 35% for 3 seconds. So, going a little bit further, there is the ability to slot gems into weapons. And there are some abilities that can transfer a portion of your melee strikes into a different type of elemental damage. Now, I think it could be cool to slot an ice gem in and check and see if that would make it so that your swings with your melee weapon would do 35% more damage for that portion of the swing that is ice. Now, some of these abilities don't really transfer over because when you swap weapons, you lose passives and stuff like that. So it's something that would be interesting to try. And really the reason why I bring this up is just showing there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do, a lot of hybrid cool things you can do with having 2 weapons, and just kind of excited and showing that there's so much in this game that is waiting for people to just go out and explore, figure out for themselves, and just really have a jolly good time. I haven't seen in this game that there's really the go-to like goat combination of weapons. So go out, have fun. Basically, the reason why I wanted to do this video today was just to show everyone all the animations, because really the fantasy of and gameplay style of what you choose to play, I think, is going to be number one. It's better to be good and understand your build than try to play some online meta build that you don't quite understand. So anyways, thank you guys for stopping by, and hope to see you guys in New World here in a little less than 2 weeks. So